Welcome, dear students. Today we will look at the second part of the chapter that we started learning in English. That is chapter 4.4, Ramanujan of class 8th. The images used in this video are taken from different internet websites. This video is presented by Miss Grecienne Misquitta. Well, students, now let us learn about Srinivas Ramanujan. Srinivas Ramanujan was one of India's greatest mathematical geniuses. He was an Indian mathematician who contributed to the theory of numbers, which include great discoveries of the properties of the partition function. His papers were published in England and European journals in 1918. He was also elected to the Royal Society of London. Ramachandra Rao was impressed by Ramanujan's mathematical intellect. He supported his research for a time, but Ramanujan, unwilling to exist on charity, started to work as a clerk at the Madras Port Trust. He is one of the greatest contributors of the 20th century. His formal training was limited short, but burst upon the mathematical scene with a series of brilliant discoveries. Analytic numbers theory was among his specialty, and his publications carried titles such as Highly Composite Numbers and Proof that all numbers, that is n, are composed about log, that is log n, prime factors. Ramanujan's work on infinite series for pi, hypergeometric series, the theory of partition of numbers, continued fractions, modular equations, Q series, and theta functions, elliptic functions, Mach theta functions are some of the remarkable contributions to mathematics. In his short span of time, Ramanujan did so many mathematical discoveries which really surprises the mathematicians all over the time. The mathematical discoveries of Ramanujan made revolutionary changes in the field of mathematics, especially in the field of number theory. The mathematical contributions of Ramanujan are widely used in other areas like particle physics, statistical mechanics, computer science, etc. In the previous video, we looked at how Ramanujan finally got accepted at England. We saw how Hardy found an envelope that had arrived from India, which had a script and was written in halting English. That script contained theorems, mostly that were wild and fantastic looking. After looking at that manuscript, he was bored and irritated as some of the theorems were already well known in the field of mathematics. He then kept the manuscript aside and continued his day routine, after which we realized that Hardy could not concentrate on his game as he couldn't get his mind off that manuscript he came across. The wild theorems were playing at the back of his mind, as he had never come across those wild theorems before. He wondered if Ramanujan was actually a fraud or a genius. when he decides to get back to his room at Trinity and decides to consult Littlewood, a well-known mathematician, to discuss about these theorems that he found in the manuscript after dinner. Before midnight, they were sure that the writer of those manuscripts was a man of genius. So then Hardy decided to call Ramanujan to England and expressed that Ramanujan was a natural mathematical genius from the era of Gauss and Euler. Now, students, let us begin with the chapter. In 1914, Ramanujan arrived in England. So far as Hardy could detect, though in this respect I should not trust his insight far, Ramanujan, despite the difficulties of breaking the caste laws, did not believe much in theological doctrine, except for a vague pantheistic benevolence, any more than Hardy did himself. But he did certainly believe in ritual. When Trinity put him up in college within 4 years, he became a fellow. There was no Alan St. Aubin self-indulgence for him at all. Hardy used to find him ritually changed into his pyjamas, cooking vegetables rather miserably in a frying pan in his own room. In this paragraph we understand that after we came to know Ramanujan was a poor clerk in Madras and was strict about his religious practices, and as we saw that it was difficult for Ramanujan to travel across the sea or ocean, but as his mother made a surprising announcement where the goddess Namakal had come to her in the dream and had commanded her not to stand in the way of a son fulfilling his life's purpose, so in the year 1914 Ramanujan arrived in England. Hardy found it a little difficult to trust Ramanujan completely, who broke the caste laws as well as did not believe much in a set of belief of God and religion, except for a vague belief that one is born out of many gods, somewhat like Hardy. Within 4 years of joining Trinity College, he became a fellow, which means he received an award, a title at Trinity, and he became a privileged member of the college, receiving the title of becoming a fellow. He did not show pride after becoming a member of the Trinity College, or self-indulged at all. Hardy hardly found him changed in England, as he used to find him in his pyjamas cooking vegetables in a frying pan in his room. Their association was strangely touching one. Hardy did not forget that he was in the presence of a genius, but genius that was, even in mathematics, almost untrained. Ramanujan had not been able to enter Madras University because he could not matriculate in English. According to Hardy's report, he was always amiable and good-natured, but no doubt he sometimes found Hardy's conversation outside mathematics more than a little baffling. He seems to have listened with a patient smile on his good, friendly, homely face. Even inside mathematics, they had to come to terms with the difference in their education. Ramanujan was self-taught. He knew nothing of the modern rigor. In a sense, he didn't know what a proof was. In this paragraph we understand that the relationship between Hardy and Ramanujan was a little strange one, but a good one. Hardy did not forget that he was in the presence of a genius, but Ramanujan was a kind of genius who was not fully trained. As Ramanujan was not able to enroll in the Madras University, as he could not perform his final examination in English. As Hardy would state, Ramanujan was a friendly, pleasant, and good natured human, but at times Ramanujan found Hardy's conversations outside mathematics a little strange and difficult to understand. Though he found it a little difficult to understand the conversation, he still listened to Hardy with a smile on his good friendly face. Even when it came to mathematics, they both realized that there is a difference in their education, and as Ramanujan was self-taught, they realized that Ramanujan was not aware of the difficult concepts in a sense like he didn't know what a proof was. In an uncharacteristically sentimental moment, Hardy once wrote that if he had been better educated, he would have been less Ramanujan. Coming back to his ironic senses, Hardy later corrected himself and said that the statement was nonsense. If Ramanujan had been better educated, he would have been even more wonderful than he was. In fact, Hardy was obliged to teach him some formal mathematics as though Ramanujan had been a scholarship candidate at Winchester. Hardy said that this was the most singular experience of his life. What did modern mathematics look like to someone who had the deepest insight but who had literally never heard most of it? In this part, we understand that once Hardy wrote with no clear defined emotions behind that if Ramanujan would have been better educated, he would have been less Ramanujan. Later, Hardy stated that the statement that he expressed was the total opposite of what he actually meant, and commented that if Ramanujan would have been better educated, he would have been even more wonderful than he was. However, Hardy felt it necessary to teach him some formal mathematics, as though Ramanujan had been a scholarship candidate at Winchester. Hardy exclaimed that it was a different moment for him as modern mathematics who had the deepest insights about it but never heard most of it. It is good to remember that England gave Ramanujan such honours as were possible. The Royal Society elected him a Fellow at the age of 30, which even for a mathematician is very young. Trinity also elected him a Fellow in the same year. He was the first Indian to be given either of these distinctions. He was amiably grateful, but he soon became ill. In this paragraph we understand it was good to remember that England gave Ramanujan such honours. The Royal Society elected him a Fellow, which again means an award or title or honour given by the Royal Society, at the age of 30, which for a mathematician is very young. Trinity College also had elected him a Fellow at the same year. He was the first Indian to be given either of those posts and title, though in the background of India being a colony of the Britishers. He was happy and grateful, but soon after that he became ill and fell severely sick. Hardy used to visit him as he lay dying in hospital at Putney. It was on one of those visits that there happened the incident of the taxi cab number. Hardy had gone out to Putney by taxi as usual, his chosen method of conveyance. He went into the room where Ramanujan was lying. Hardy, always clumsy about introducing a conversation, said, probably without a greeting, and certainly as his first remark, "The number of my taxi cab was 1729. It seemed to me rather a dull number." To which Ramanujan replied, "No, Hardy." In this paragraph we understand that Hardy used to visit Ramanujan as he was very ill and was admitted in the hospital at Putney, a place in London. It was during one of those visits where the incident of the taxi cab number took place. Hardy chose a vehicle for travelling there. He entered the room where Ramanujan lay. Hardy was very clumsy, or found it awkward to start a conversation, but started it without a formal greeting, and certainly started with, "The number of my taxi cab was 1729. It seemed to me a rather dull number." To which Ramanujan replied that no, Hardy, disagreeing to what Hardy had said. "It is a very interesting number. It is the smallest number, expressible as the sum of two cubes in two different ways." It was difficult in wartime to move Ramanujan to a kinder climate. He died of tuberculosis back in Madras 2 years after the war. As Hardy wrote in the Apology, his roll call of mathematicians: Galois died at 21, Abel at 27, Ramanujan at 33, and Raymond at 40. I do not know an instance of a major mathematical advance initiated by a man past 50. In this paragraph we understand, as Ramanujan expresses, that it was a very interesting number, explaining that it is the smallest number, expressible as the sum of two cubes in two different ways. The number 1729 is also known as Hardy Ramanujan's number. It was difficult to move Ramanujan to a climate that would be suitable for his health, as it was time Ramanujan died because of tuberculosis in Madras 2 years after the war. This war is the World War I. Hardy wrote in the Apology, that is a regretful acknowledgement, that in his call of mathematicians, Galois died at the age of 21, Abel died at the age of 27, and Ramanujan passed away at the age of 33, and Raymond at the age of 40. He states that he does not know of any instance of a major mathematical advance genius man who survived past the age of 50 years. Well, students, now let us discuss the question and answers and see if you've understood this video. Starting off with the first question: what surprised everyone one morning? Here the answer is too simple. Ramanujan arrived in England. Ramanujan, despite the difficulties of breaking the caste laws, did not believe much in the theological doctrine, but he believed in the benevolence of God and he reached England. This surprised everyone. The next question: what did Hardy have to teach Ramanujan? Hardy taught Ramanujan some formal mathematics, as though Ramanujan had been a scholarship candidate at Winchester. Moving on to the next question: why does Hardy call it an unusual experience? Again, the answer is very simple. Hardy called this teaching maths to Ramanujan the most singular experience of his life. He wondered what modern mathematics looked to someone like Ramanujan, who had the deepest insights but who had literally never heard most of it. The next question: what is exceptional about the number 1729? Well, this number is the smallest number expressible as the sum of two cubes in two different ways. It is a very interesting number. It is indeed very difficult to solve the sum of two cubes in two different ways which equals to 1729. Only a mathematician can do it. The last question: well, students, can you name all the famous mathematicians mentioned in this story? The list is easy. We have J. E. Littlewood, Gauss, Euler, Galois, Abel, Riemann, and Godfrey Harold Hardy that are mentioned in this story. Thank you, dear students, and hope you all enjoyed this video.